Now, when studying or revising for characters in A View from the Bridge, of course, the main protagonist is Eddie Carbone, and you do need to remember key quotations and, of course, do word level analysis when discussing what these quotations illustrate about Eddie's character. So as you can see behind me, essentially I've selected the key quotations to remember when it comes to Eddie's character, whether you're revising A View from the Bridge for your exams or whether you're using this for an essay. And of course, do bear in mind that there is a course on this that I've created, so make sure you check that out, where I go into lots of detail when it comes to both Eddie's character as well as other aspects of A View from the Bridge. Now, I'm going to go over the key quotations to remember when it comes to Eddie Carbone's character. Now, do bear in mind that he is presented as a tragic figure. In other words, he is the protagonist through his fatal flaw, which is his attraction to his niece, Catherine, this unnatural attraction. He makes a series of mistakes, which ultimately leads to his downfall and death, okay? Now, the first quotation to remember when it comes to his character is when he's telling Catherine that you're the Madonna type. Now, bear in mind that this is a metaphor, him referring to Catherine as Madonna. Now, Madonna essentially refers to the Virgin Mary in the Bible. In other words, here we're getting this sense that he sees her as almost this pure virginal creature that he needs to protect from the rest of the world. So whilst we know that she's his niece, he has raised her as his daughter. And here we can see that he almost has this obsession with protecting her chastity and her purity. He doesn't want her beauty to be seen by any man. So we're already starting to get hints in this quotation that Eddie has almost this unnatural desire to protect his niece's virginity. The second quotation to bear in mind when it comes to Eddie's character, again illustrating his relationship with Catherine and how protective he is, overprotective to a fault, is when he states you can't take no job. He doesn't want Catherine to take a job. And again, this goes into his overprotective attitude and his overbearing attitude towards his niece. Now, the word level analysis to do here is firstly the pronoun you. Here he's being very commanding towards his niece. Again, we sense that this goes beyond a father-daughter or an uncle-niece relationship. He seems very obsessed with almost protecting her from the rest of the world, as if he wants her all to himself. The other word level analysis you want to do is the assonance of O in know and job. Now, the other quotation to bear in mind when it comes to how he is very suspicious of Rodolfo, almost jealous, is once Rodolfo and Marco arrive, he states, "That guy ain't right, ellipsis. You know what I mean?" Now here, the word level analysis firstly is the euphemism ain't right. Here, do bear in mind that euphemism is a polite way of referring to maybe something that's seen as insulting. And of course here, he's using this euphemism to basically hint that Rodolfo is a homosexual. Also, the other word level analysis you want to do here, or rather a structural point you can make, is of course the rhetorical question when he's stating, you know what I mean? In other words, he's trying to see whether other people kind of understand that Rodolfo perhaps might be a homosexual, okay? The other quotation when it comes to Eddie's character is when he states and he shows this resentment between towards Rodolfo, and he's quite resentful of the romantic relationship that evolves between Rodolfo and Catherine, because he states, "I worked like a dog 20 years so a punk could have her." And of course here he's really angry that Catherine and Rodolfo, firstly, contrary to what he believes, Rodolfo is not a homosexual, he's not gay, but secondly, Catherine is trying to go from under his grasp and establish an independent life and an independent romantic relationship with Rodolfo, which he resents. Now, the word level analysis to do here firstly is a simile, like a dog. Of course here, initially we remember how Eddie actually, he had a really good side to him. He looked after Catherine, he worked really, really hard. He was a typical Italian immigrant who came to America, who worked very, very hard to look after his family. So of course the simile is embodying that. However, he seems really resentful that now Catherine is older, she is giving herself over to what he sees as a punk. And this is a metaphor describing Rodolfo, whom he looks down on. The other quotation to remember when it comes to Eddie's character is when he states, and this is when he calls immigration services and he decides to report Marco and Rodolfo. He states, "I want to report something, illegal immigrants," okay? Now, of course, these two are declarative sentences. Bear in mind that a declarative sentence is a sentence that states a fact, feeling, or mood. Now here, of course, this begins the fast trajectory on his downward spiral. Of course, what this will mean once word gets out that he has reported to people from his community is a lot of other Italian migrants will see him essentially as very scarred by this experience. They will, of course, want to avoid him. This is also going to be really, really bad for his reputation within the Italian immigrant community, who always saw anybody who reports and betrays anyone within the community with lots of suspicion. Okay, so of course here he makes a major fatal error, and this is of course what leads Marco to resent him and to seek revenge, which ultimately leads to his death. The final quotation is when he and Marco have a standoff during Catherine and Rodolfo's wedding before Marco ultimately has him killed. So of course he turns in the knife that Eddie has on himself, and prior to that Eddie is really angry because of course word gets out that he did report Rodolfo and Marco, and his reputation is really tarnished and ruined within the Italian migrant community where he lives. And he states, "Wiping the neighborhood with my name like a dirty rag. I want my name, Marco." And of course here what Eddie is trying to do is trying to cling onto any shreds of respectability that he has left. Of course he is blaming them for letting the word out that he had reported them, and of course everybody now really sees Eddie in a negative light, and he's trying to cling onto any form of respectability which is completely lost, and of course he ends up losing control and dying by his own knife. Now the word level analysis you want to do for this quotation, of course, when he's talking about wiping the neighborhood with my name like a dirty rag, of course like a dirty rag is a simile. And also the other word level analysis to do is, of course, when it comes to both sentences, they end with exclamation mark, meaning that they are both exclamatory sentences. This shows Eddie's increasing desperation, and sadly it ends with tragedy because he dies soon after. Okay, so that's really it when it comes to Eddie's character and key quotes to remember for his character. Make sure you check out the course.